Howdy, 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 howdy. It is I am here. I am back. Garrus is here. And I'm surprised. What did I just step on? Oh, I stepped on some PLA. I'm surprised that the number at the corner there says 7. Um. Huh. Don't mind me. Just dying. It's kind of what I do. It's my whole shtick. If I don't die at least once a day during stream, am I even really streaming? Oh, this looks like it's gonna be such a fun stream. Well, yeah, the recordings always drop on YouTube. It's what I do. If I don't die of degeneracy, then I'm not gonna die. This is actually very dark blue, and this is also very dark blue. This is the only black I am wearing. So, just kind of calling you out there. But yes, I hope y'all are doing swell and fine on this fine, I guess it's an early evening now. Meant to start streaming earlier, but then I got sidetracked with other stuff. But I'm here now. So one thing that's really fun that happened to me the other day, yesterday, to watch the CDI game. They're actually not on this tier list. I didn't find one that had them on there, but also I haven't played them, so... But yeah, fun thing happened to me the other day, yesterday. I started a print with my printer when I went to bed. I woke up at about 3 in the morning, and I checked the print, and the print was doing just fine. So I went back to bed. And then I woke up at like 9 o'clock, and I was hearing noises from my printer, and I'm like, I don't like that. So I had forgotten to get more adhesive for the build plate. So there just was not enough adhesive on the thing for it to stay connected and everything. So when it was trying to print, at some point, it became unadhered while the extruder was going along, and then it caught it and then pulled it along with it while it was doing the stuff. And I'm sure, as you could guess, with a thing that extrudes a goop out on a line, if there's something blocking it, not letting it do what it wants, it kind of globs up. So that was fun to clean. But while I was cleaning it, I didn't quite know fully what I was doing. And, well, let's just say a goopy blob. Yeah, some people on Reddit were calling it a blob of death. But needless to say, for how the whole situation went for me, this is supposed to be connected to the hot end. This is the wire for the thermostat. So here's the hot end. I had to completely take it apart to fully clean it and everything, because there was still like gunk all on the inside there. It's all like scratched up and everything because I had forgotten just how soft aluminum is. Now, it's not like damaged or anything. Well, I can't actually turn. Here, if I like refocus this like that. Yeah, so I can't turn that screw because you can still see the PLA on the inside. And I can't turn that screw because of the PLA on the inside. So I need to like figure out a lot better as to how to fix it. well, how to clean it out, but I can 100% fix it. The wire, like the this piece that connects on to the hot end is so cheap online. Like a pack of 10 of them is like $10. But luckily that was the only part that got damaged. The whole like proper extruder portion is fine. None of the fans got damaged. So I'm like, I've seen a lot worse happen with globs of death where like they get into the fan and then it just, the whole extruder is kaput and then you gotta like replace the whole thing. Luckily for me, I can fix this. I had emailed Elegoo, the company, just asking them. This was before I figured out what happened. But I had emailed them asking them if they had any idea what could have happened and any advice for me in the future for like how to fix this and how to make sure that it doesn't happen. And not only did they respond, they told me all of the possible reasons that could have caused it, why they could have happened, how to fix it. They sent multiple videos of how to take apart the stuff to clean it and put it back together. And they are just sending me a new one of these. I didn't even ask for one of these. That was just tacked on at the end of the email. Just, oh yeah, and we're gonna send you a new hot end too, so. Like, fuck. The customer service for Elegoo, since day one of me having my printer, has been absolutely phenomenal. I do want to say that. I am very happy that I chose this company. Now, it does take a little bit for them to get back to you because they are kind of in China. So when I am having the issue emailing them, they are not working anymore. It is that time of the year. Not time of year, time of the day. But yes, regardless, it's all getting sorted out, and it's so cool. Maybe drip some acetone in there, should melt it, should melt the PLA, may damage something else. That's actually a really good idea. Better than my other idea of having to get, like, I think this end, where there's, like, nothing, I can easily, like, cover this and cover these and then use my heat gun to melt all of the inside of there. But this side, I feel like I'd need to figure out how to remove the red portion, which I think I need to remove that screw to do so, in order to get the heat gun in there to not damage this. Because heat guns are really hot. Like, hot enough to burn fabric. So that's fun. That's very, very fun. But regardless, I love how user-friendly this printer is. Like, I didn't even have to look anything up and I was able to figure out how to disassemble the printer to get the extruder off and then how to disassemble the extruder to get the hot end out. And then they just kind of fit together so easily. And if this piece breaks, I can buy a new one online, or I guess they can just send me one. If just the wires break, I can buy just the wires. If the fans break, I can buy just the fans. If the whole extruder unit breaks, I can buy the whole extruder unit. And the most expensive out of all of those is the whole extruder unit, and that's only $50. Which, like, realistically, that's not all too much for a full printer extruder. Because that's a lot of components in there that would be broken. The fans are like $10, $20 each. I think this was like $30 to $40, I think, somewhere around there. And the whole extruder was $50 or more. So I'm very, very happy with my printer. Yes, I've had issues here and there, but that does just kind of come with the learning process of learning how to use a 3D printer because this is my first one. I've never used one before this. So I'm learning how to do all the stuff. I'm very happy with it. Need to wait like a week or so before the pieces come in so I can fix it. But that doesn't matter. I can spend that time making models. But yes, so that's the fun stuff that I have been up to. But realistically, I should, I guess, hop over to here. I'll full screen it. I never full screen, and that's interesting. I don't know why. On my computer, ever since day one, my web browser has always been like this. And if I have like a multiple browser, then, well, I'll bring it over to the other side, but it'll just be small like that. And I do not know why. And I accidentally minimized absolutely everything, so that's fun. Boop, boop, boop. But yes, I guess I should get that to be seen from around me. Should get over to this. Here, if I go to... Does this... Oh, nope. Nah, I'll keep it like that. Ew, gross. Ads. Yeah, so I'm going to start doing my tier list of every Zelda game, every mainline Zelda game. I've now, with Tears of the Kingdom and Echoes of Wisdom being out, that is new games added to the list, and it's been about 2 years since I last did one of these. So let's see if my opinion of them has has changed at all from the last time, because I've played some of them more since, others I haven't, like Zelda 2 I have not touched since. Same with the DS games, but that's just because they're harder to play. Well, harder to play these days. But regardless, the very, very first Zelda game, Legend of Zelda on the NES. Oops, did not mean to do that. I love the game. It really did a good job at setting a standard for what adventure games were going to be in the really early days of the video game market. Since then, it has been improved, so can't say that it's like perfect, because there are a lot of stuff missing, there are a few flaws, but it's still a fantastic game, and I've been hovering there just kind of mindlessly because it's in the middle, and that's just kind of where my brain likes to go. But I do think I'm going to put this at a solid solid C, because like it's not horrible, it's not like super super amazing, but it's like always a fun time when you play through it. And I really needed a drink of water there. And it has like a second quest and everything. Like, not even the later Zelda games have like a second quest of remix stuff. Like Master Quest, that's probably the closest that we've gotten since. But yeah, it's really fun. The randomizer for it, I've done it once or twice, is really interesting. It's not like super as in-depth as I would like it to be, but again, it's a small NES game that is just the bare essentials. Sword, shield, bomb, bow, boomerang. That's about it. But it's still a fun time to play and go through. Can play through it in like a day, less than a day, like just like 2-3 hours if I know what I'm doing. which I usually do. um, Zelda 2. A lot of people like to call it the black sheep because like it is a very different experience than the first Zelda game. But if I'm remembering correctly, the development of Zelda 2 was actually being done like coinciding with the development of Zelda 1. Like maybe it started like midway through or something, but it was by a different team altogether that didn't have any like input or influence or anything from the other team making the main Legend of Zelda. So this was more or less just another team's take on what their idea of the game and story should be. Instead of them making the one Zelda game and then deciding to make the different one and seeing how it goes, they were made parallel, and I found that interesting. I've learned that not too many people actually know that. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's a frustrating game. There's a lot of components that could definitely be better. A lot of people immediately jump to like Death Mountain and everything, because it's a confusing maze with lots of really hard enemies in it. But if you like, I'm able to just kind of bullshit my way through and just kind of end up there. The one thing that I do wish was done better in the game is the life system, because if I'm remembering correctly, there are 3 or 4 Link statues scattered around throughout the entire game. They are extra lives, but once you get them, they're gone, and once you use it, it's used. So, more or less, unless you play perfectly, you just have 3 lives. If that, I think. 2 or 3 lives. Which is unfortunate. I wish that there was a better way of gaining other lives in the game, because then that would mitigate the frustration of the game, like, a lot. Like, there would be a lot less frustration, because, say, in Death Mountain, you wouldn't just get stuck on a... they're not Gorias, but I forget what the guys with the axes are called. You wouldn't get a game over dealing with one of them and then get thrown all the way back if you could gain lives. Not necessarily lots of lives, but like, I don't know. It would be just fun if they did that. But I enjoy the game. I played through it entirely without any walkthrough, I don't think. Because it's a lot of NES games, like, you don't fully need them for that. Zelda 1, you kind of do sometimes. But Zelda 2, it was very fun. Played it on stream. Don't remember when, but I was here when I did it. I know that. But it's definitely, like, I want to say it's, like, a D, but I don't want to say it's a C, but I'm just going to put it as D because it's not quite as good as the first Zelda game, but it's really good in its own other respects as a different type of game. If it was not The Legend of Zelda and something else and the exact same gameplay and everything and whatnot, then I think that it would still be able to hold its own as a game and people wouldn't really complain about it as much if that was the case. But that's beside the point. I think it's not as good as the first, but it's still a very good game. Not like E or F or anything. Zelda: A Link to the Past. This was the... Oh, God. Majora's Mask was my first Zelda game. And then Ocarina of Time, I think. Either Ocarina of Time or... either Oracle of Seasons or Link's Awakening. And then I got A Link to the Past on the Game Boy and played through that, or at least attempted to. It was a lot more of a complex game. But it's very fun. It's definitely one of my favorite Zelda games. I've played through it of the most out of all Zelda games, just because I really like the randomizer of it. I just love the randomizer of like any of the games because they add so much replayability of them, and it gives excuses to play through the game more and again and be able to just remember how it is and sort of give a feeling experience of not knowing where anything is the first time and getting something going, oh wow, this will help. It's just kind of fun. I love the game. I'm going to say it's a higher tier one, either A or B. I kind of want to say it's a B, if anything, for the ice physics. Because fuck ice physics. Fuck ice physics. Yeah, I'm gonna land it as a B. It's a great game. I absolutely love it, but the ice physics, that is the one thing that I rue every single playthrough of the game. I just do not want to deal with the ice. Even the water temple's not that bad. The Dark World Water Temple. But the Ice Temple. Aside from that, it's a phenomenal, fantastic game, and I absolutely adore it. A Link's Awakening Game Boy version. I also love this game. It was a very early on Zelda game for me, as I had mentioned earlier. I had it with my original Game Boy Color. I had Link's Awakening DX. I loved it. I never beat it as a kid because the Game Boy Zelda games, I don't know why, to me were just more complicated. Link's Awakening and Oracle of Seasons were both ones that I hadn't beaten for a very long time from the first time I played them. But they're fantastic games. I love A Link to the Past. A Link's Awakening. Jesus Christ. But well, the story of it is absolutely fantastic and phenomenal as well and everything. Honestly, I do kind of want to... It doesn't have frustrating ice physics. It has a great story. It's a fantastic, like, handheld, take-it-with-you experience of the game. I can't really think of any, like, super overly frustrating parts of the game off the top of my head from playing it. It's just a good time to play, regardless if you're playing the Game Boy version, the Game Boy Color version, or even the Switch version, which has its own thing here, but they have added stuff, so I'll deal with that when I get to that. But honestly, I'm going to say that it's a high B, better than this. No, I'm going to say it's a A. It's just a fantastic game. I love it. I don't play it near as much as I probably should, but I love it. It's a great game. Very fond memories from it. And I always love playing it when I do. Maybe I should try doing the randomizer for it one of these days and learn how to do like the tricks and everything in it. That'd be fun to do. Garrus wants out of my room. So I'm going to take this as an opportunity also to steal a piece of candy from my bag and eat it. Blah. Candy. I don't know why I was looking around for my controller. I'm doing a mouse. But yes. So the next game is Ocarina of Time. It was either the second or third Zelda game that I ever played. I rented it from the local video library. It was super, super fun. I loved it. I remember my brother beating it The thing with my local video library when I was a kid is that it was 1 day rentals, like movie, game, regardless, 1 day rentals. So good luck keeping your file on the N64 games when you rented them. God, renting N64 games. Uh, but I don't remember if we managed to beat it through renting it or from when I was finally able to get my own copy of the game, which I got from my closest EB Games. I remember my cousin was working there at the time, which was wild to think of her as a teenager working at an EB Games now. But was just in there looking around when my mom was talking to my cousin, and in the used game section was Ocarina of Time. So we picked it up while it was there. I don't even remember how much it was. Probably like $20 or something at most. Played through it like all the time. Absolutely loved it. Adored it. It was fantastic. Such a wide expanse of a game as well. I don't remember how long it took me personally to beat it for my very first time, but I remember watching my brother play through and do all the stuff and everything. And it was so much fun. I have so many memories of like the first time that I got to, well, not like the first time, but within the first few years of having it, like back when I don't even know if the GameCube was out yet at this point. Maybe it was. It probably was because it was early 2000s. I don't remember if we had a GameCube yet. The N64 was just on the TV in the living room, and I had just met Zelda in the castle garden, and then my dad comes in and he's like, "Oh, you met Zelda. Does that mean you beat the game? You finished it? You saved the princess?" I'm like, "No, this is still early in the game. She's going to give me something." It was a very fun time. Actually, it was the first time that I got to the Forest Temple on my own and playing through it. I don't know why I remember this specifically so vividly. But that night, it was just me and my mother at home, and she had made spaghetti with garlic bread, and I was playing the game, and I called Ganon. Well, Ganon. I called Ganondorf a monkey bear human mix or something. I don't remember why. I know the bottom of his shoes kind of looked like that they had a bear paw on the bottom, which was why I was saying that. But I was playing through the Forest Temple that night, and then I was eating the garlic bread, and a piece of the garlic bread crust went under one of my loose teeth, and so that caused me to finally lose that tooth that night, and that was a fun time. So I have a lot of very fond memories of Ocarina of Time. I don't love it as much as like other Zelda games, but given the fact that I've beaten this game like over I want to say 30 times at this point, probably a little bit less, but for all I know, I could be spot on. I've played this game a lot. I'm definitely gonna put it in an S tier because it's just a fantastic game. Super fun story, super it feels so large and expansive, especially when you're playing it as a kid. And it's just a super fun time. Now, Majora's Mask, on the other hand, was the very first Zelda game that I ever played. We got it with our Nintendo 64 for Christmas that year. And I remember very vividly that the first time we turned on the N64 and put in, we turned on the game and everything, as it usually was with with cartridge-based games, when you would get them brand new, there was a file on them already. Or at least I never got a cartridge-based game that had files in it that didn't already have at least one file on it that had stuff. As like a, I think it, I always said it would have been like a test from the people to make sure that the cartridge works and everything. But I remember that the Majora's Mask, the file that was on it just had all of the items, and I could be wrong with this, just thinking about how it would be, but I remember vividly walking around East Clocktown as Fierce Deity Link, going up the stairs there, and then we reset the game and deleted the file. I didn't want to delete it, but we deleted it because we're gonna have our own game. You can only have 2 files on this game, so... And God, played this game all the time as a kid. I loved it so much. I remember fucking making up shit about the game. I don't know why, but it's the kind of shit that kids do. I used to say that you could get a pirate mask. All the pirates would like take off their masks and then spin them around. I remember that's what I said. And then you would get like the pirate's mask, and it's just exactly the veil over the face. And that was very amusing to me. But God, I love the game. I had a hard time beating the bosses, but I remember my very first time actually beating Odawa for my very first time, and it was me and my sister playing the game, and we were trying to get my brother to come up to beat the boss for us because really wanted to do it and everything, but he just didn't show up. He didn't come over and beat the boss, so I'm like, alright, I'll just do it. And I managed to do it. Same thing actually happened with Riku in Kingdom Hearts, the first time you fight him in Hollow Bastion. I don't remember why I remember that specifically, but yeah, that's a random other little fun fact. But Majora's Mask is such a good game. If it's your first Zelda game, it's usually your favorite Zelda game. Otherwise, it's like somewhere around in there. Just like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If they're your first Zelda game, then they're probably your favorite Zelda game. I didn't know any of the stuff. I didn't know who Link was looking for or anything. I didn't know who the person giving Link the ocarina in the flashback cutscene was. I just didn't know any of that shit. It was just me going around as this forest boy that I used to say lived on the other side of the world, because in my mind the world was so big, so huge, that the other side of the world had never been explored. People just hadn't gotten there yet. Like fucking Hunter x Hunter bullshit. But yeah, I loved it. It was so much fun. So many memories. It's obviously like a very high S tier game there. In my opinion, it's better than Ocarina of Time. There are points in it that I look back on thinking that they would be annoying to do, but after doing them from playing the randomizers I've been doing so much, they're by no means annoying at all. Like, the game is just banger after banger after banger, and I love the story. I love the culmination of all the different side quests making up the whole lack of everything else in the game, since there's 4 dungeons instead of what is it, 5, 6, 7, 8 dungeons plus 2 mini dungeons that's in Ocarina. But it's so much fun. It's so good, and I'll never not love the game. I actually have so many copies of the game. I have my childhood copy. I have the holographic collector's edition copy. I have the Japanese copy, I have the 3DS copy, and I have a not for resale gold cart copy of it as well. Um, I just love it. It's a great game. Oracle of Seasons and Ages. I'm going to do Seasons first because that was the first one of the two that I played since they came out all at the same time. It took me many years to get my copy of Ages, and it took me many years more to beat Ages. I actually beat Ages on stream here, sitting here for my very first time. I think somewhere saved in my computer is that set. It was before I started saving things to YouTube, which I wish I did back then. But Seasons is just such a fun game. It plays obviously like the same as A Link's Awakening, but it's made by Capcom. It uses the same assets, that's the word I'm looking for. And if I'm remembering correctly, this game was originally meant to be either this game or Link's Awakening, was originally meant to be a Game Boy remake of the first Zelda game that was just kind of unsanctionedly being made, which is why some of the enemies in it are Mario-based enemies. But then eventually Shigeru Miyamoto saw it and everything, and then he loved it, but then changed up the stuff of it and everything to make it not be a Zelda 1 remake, but then be its own game, which then became 3 games, which then became 2 games. But I love Oracle of Seasons. The main gimmick of Seasons, obviously, is the changing of the seasons, but it's a very puzzle-based game. No, Seasons is the combat one. Yeah, Seasons is a very combat-heavy game. So there's the puzzles in the later dungeon, like the last like 2 dungeons or whatever. The puzzles in those dungeons are on par with the dungeon puzzles in the first few dungeons of Ages. So it's much more focus on combat, fighting, and doing things with the 4-season gimmicks on the outside world and everything. And it's just so much fun. It was the Game Boy Zelda game I probably spent the most amount of time on. And it was the Game Boy Zelda game. Frankly, I actually still have my copy of it. It's somewhere in a box behind me there. But I love the game. It's fantastic. The code and game link aspects of it as well, kind of, in my opinion, bump it up even higher. So I'm going to pop it as an A tier game, because with the dependent as to which game you play of Oracle of Seasons or Oracle of Ages, you get a code at the end of the game. And if you put that code into the other game, then you will get a completely different story than what the game would be originally if you just pop it in with a brand new save file, nothing else added. The story would link the 2 stories between Holodrum and Labyrinth, the 2 different kingdoms that you're in, and it even gives a new dungeon, if I'm remembering correctly. Could be wrong about that. I could be talking about the Game Boy version of A Link to the Past. But it also has 2 more bosses at the end of the game that you wouldn't normally fight with just playing the game alone. And Oracle of Seasons was the very first one of the 2 that I played through and did. Oracle of Ages is, as I mentioned, a much more puzzle-based game with time travel mechanics of the past and the present. So you would sometimes need to do things in the past to alter how they would be in the present, so you can do the stuff or get stuff from the past that you need to do stuff in the present. And it's just a really, really fun time. The items that are in it are just really interesting. Like, the magnet gloves are really fun to get and play around with. That's for some reason the only item I'm thinking of, but if you link the game, you can get the Master Sword. Like, normally you get the level 1 sword, level 2 sword, and then if you do other quests, you can get the level 3 sword, I think? It would just be called the Noble Sword, but if you link the game, then you can get the Master Sword, if I'm remembering correctly, and you can also get the Bigoron Sword, and that takes up both your item slots, A and B. And it's a really hard-hitting, big sweeping attack sword. And as I also said with the game linking aspect of it, I'm just going to put it at A because that's where it is. With the game linking aspect of it, it just adds so much more to it. Like, on stream, I played through Oracle of Seasons and then played Oracle of Ages Linked. And then off stream, I played regular Oracle of Ages and then Oracle of Seasons Linked. And it's just so cool and so interesting seeing the differences that they add in. Like, at the very beginning of Oracle of Seasons, Din and Nehru are the two oracles, the Oracle of Season and Oracle of Ages. They are, like, actual people. Din is just a dancer with a circus troupe, and you can talk to the entire troupe while they're there, and they just talk about having a good time, and you should dance with Din, blah, 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 blah. And if you do a linked game, and then you talk to them, they will say that they are actually secretly knights from Hyrule, and they're on a mission to escort Din back to Hyrule for safety. And it's just really cool how they change that up. If you link the games together, then you can meet Princess Zelda in the game as well. She shows up. It's just a really fun time. I really love the linked game mechanic of it. It's kind of like a second quest, like in Zelda 2 that I was mentioning earlier, and with the Master Quest that they ended up doing with Ocarina of Time, where that was originally supposed to be Ura Zelda. It's just so much fun, so cool. I love shit like that. So here we have the Game Boy Advance version of A Link to the Past. I'm going to put it at the same ranking just because I never had the opportunity until the 25th anniversary re-release on the Nintendo DS. I don't remember if it was the DSi or the 3DS. And while that was the 25th anniversary, and they're almost at 40 now. Jesus. So I never really had the opportunity to do the 4 swords in that, so it was more so just me playing Link to the Past. But it was really cool. Like, they added in stuff to the game. They added in a color dungeon that if you beat the game and then beat 4 swords in the main Link to the Past, you can then do a whole new dungeon, the color dungeon, which gets you, I don't remember what item it gets you, and I know that you have to fight 4 different Links, all the different colors through the 4 sword, and it's really cool and fun. And they add like a sound clip for Link slashing, the same sound clip of young Link from Ocarina of Time. Since it's the Game Boy Advance, they can do that. Yeah, it was just a great game. I love it. It was so much fun. And Wind Waker here. Oh boy, Wind Waker. I got this game for Easter. I don't remember how long after it came out, because I wasn't really paying attention to game releases at that time. I was just paying attention to I'm playing the games that I have. If there's new games, then cool. But it was such a fantastic time. I played the game, and it took me years to beat the game, mainly because I lost my memory card for a good 5 of those years, but uh, maybe not 5 years, at least like 3 years. It was up on a top shelf that I forgot I put it on. Uh, I can't believe I did that. I'm like, I'm gonna put this here for safekeeping, and then I forgot I put it there. And then, like, 2 years later, I'm standing up high on something like my memory card. And then I finally beat Wind Waker. The exploring of the sea as a child in that game was such a magical time. Going around and finding every single island, seeing what they all had. It was such a fantastic time. I got stuck at the Triforce hunt, as most people did, because of all the money that you needed, all of the shards, and then Triforce shards that you needed to find. So I got stuck on that, and then I lost my memory card, and then at some point between losing my memory card and finding it, I joined Army Cadets. Yeah, shocker me. Yeah, genuinely, I'm still surprised that I did that. But I remember the night that I found my memory card. I was supposed to go to Army Cadets, but I just found my memory card with my Wind Waker save on it. I'm not going to go to Army Cadets for that, so I quit Army Cadets, and I spent the rest of the time playing through Wind Waker, and I beat it for my very first time, either that night or the night after, and it was just so much fun. Actually, really cool thing. One second. My copy of Wind Waker here, if we pop over onto this. So, yeah, my GameCube copy of Wind Waker. Oh, it's not in there! What happened? It must have finally been taken out or removed or something. But there, I'm actually genuinely upset about that. I had a piece of paper in here for years that had a hand-drawn map of the entire ocean of where every single Triforce chart was and where their subsequent Triforce shard was. And I had it written on an old permission slip from like elementary school or something. And I just find that hilarious. I'm upset it's not there, like genuinely upset that it's not in there anymore. But fantastic, fantastic, fantastic game. I'm not seeing any of the HD re-releases on here, so I'm going to include Wind Waker HD in this, which Wind Waker HD fixes the money and Triforce chart issue by having a lot of them be just the shards that you find, and and you also have less charts to decipher, and the deciphering costs less. And there's the addition of the Swift sale and everything. So I genuinely have not touched, like I have not played GameCube Wind Waker in a very long time. I think the last time I did was technically when I did a Wind Waker randomizer, but Swift sale is added into that and everything, so it was more or less Wind Waker HD, just without the bloom. But Wind Waker HD is the one that I play through. Like, if I'm going to play Wind Waker, I'm playing Wind Waker HD. And I love it so much. Wind Waker, in my opinion, is an absolute S-tier ranked Zelda game. So fantastic. So fun. So good. I love every single minute of it. The music is fantastic. I love the dungeons. The sailing around the sea is so fun. And it's just playing it as a kid is a magical experience. Zelda Four Swords Adventure, a sequel to the Link to the Past Four Swords game. It was a GameCube game. Could be 4 players, could be single player, but you needed the link cable and Game Boys to connect to the GameCube in order to do that, if I'm remembering correctly, which is kind of stupid, but I could be wrong about that. It's a very different game. Very, very different. It's more so of a game where it's level based. So you go from the end of the level, we'll start a level to the end of the level, and then you select the next level, and then that level starts where the other level ended sometimes, and then you go ahead further. And it's just a really interesting take on it. The main thing of it is that you collect force gems. That's what they're called. You collect force gems, and they are kind of your point system. And if you've played Lego Star Wars at all, or any of the Lego games, they're your studs. So you want to get like a full amount to like fill up your force meter, and then I think at that point you can shoot lasers from your swords. And if you're playing with multiple people, there can be a ranking of it all, and it's a really interesting time. I've only played through it start to finish at most maybe twice. So it's not something I like choose to go back to every now and then, but it's really an interesting time. I'm going to say it's a C tier game. Not like horrible, not amazing. I don't like that, because I think nah, that game is better than that game, so I think I will keep that there. Yeah. Still a very fun game. I enjoy it when I do play it. Minish Cap. I love Minish Cap. It's one of my favorite Zelda games. I remember getting it brand new for my birthday. And I remember getting the worst bloody nose of my life because of it. Because I need to take a bite out of this chocolate bar. That's why I got the bloody nose. I needed the chocolate. Yes, I remember I was playing the game and my brother wanted to play, but I didn't want to stop playing. And then, as young children do, got into like, nah. And then in that little scuffle, he accidentally kneed me in the nose. And it was like a faucet was turned on. It was so crazy. Needless to say, I stopped playing Minish Cap, and he did not start playing Minish Cap, because now we had to deal with that. So that was a fun time. And I remember the first time I got to Lon Lon Ranch in Minish Cap. For whatever reason, I read it as Ron Ron Ranch for the very first time. And so I told my brother, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Ron Ron Ranch. That's where the place is. And then went there again, and then it was Lon Lon. I'm like, what? Don't know how I didn't know I was dyslexic. But it's a fantastic game. The last boss, like Dark Hyrule Castle, can be a bit of a pain, and the Palace in the Sky can also be a pain. I've never 100% the game, like the kinstones and everything, but I've still played through it so much. It's such a fantastic game. So I'm going to put it on the same level with all the other Game Boy games, which is interesting to me, which I love that that's there, since even though it's a Game Boy game, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I love Minish Cap. The story's fun. It was actually the very first game that I ever tried to Let's Play on YouTube. I never made it very far into the game, but I made it through the first dungeon, uploading the stuff. Never got traction. Channel got taken down. Yeah, my current channel, actually, I think is my third YouTube channel. One of them is still up. Like, one of my old ones is still up. And the old one is not. What a dog. What a dog. Yes, so the next game on the list here is good old Twilight Princess. I remember the hype for Twilight Princess coming out. I got my issue of Nintendo Power, and it came with a DVD. And on that DVD was a trailer for Twilight Princess. And I remember watching that trailer so many times. It was actually the very first game that I was like anticipating and waiting for the release of. I didn't know it was going to be released on the GameCube. I only knew that it was going to be released on the Wii. So, the hype of not only a new Zelda game coming out, but the Wii coming out. So a Zelda game with motion controls. I remember I had pictured it to be like how Skyward Sword's motion controls are, but I loved it so much. Twilight Princess. The wait, the hype, and then when I finally got my Wii in, I think 2008 or 2009, and then a little bit after that, like, we had rented it since the years from the renting of N64 games to renting of Wii games. A new rental place had opened up that had week-long rentals, and it was great. We rented Twilight Princess and played it and played it and played it and played it and played it, and it was such a good time, and didn't even have to worry about losing the file because the file was on the system, not on the cart, because it wasn't a cart, it was a disc. And it was such a good time, and I remember my cousin's wedding. The same cousin that was working at EB Games when I got Ocarina of Time, for her wedding, I was a goblin of a child because I had unmedicated ADHD as a small child. So because I was really good and wasn't chaos, Twilight Princess was bought for me as a present, and so it was great. Played through it so much. I remember playing through the Snow Peak Ruins on my birthday like at my birthday party with my friends there and everything. Some of them were outside playing, some of them were inside with me, watching me play the game, and it was just a fun time. It was a jolly, jolly fun time. Never played it on the GameCube. The closest I've ever come to playing it on the GameCube is playing the Wii version, the HD version. But I love it. I love Twilight Princess. It feels weird when I play the HD version because I'm so used to the mirrored world. And God, it was just such a fun time. Everything about the game was so new, so fresh, and it looks so good. So good. So I'm going to put that as either a really high A tier or the lower S tier. I'm trying to think if there's any, like, huge glaring flaws. And I can't think of any. So I'm going to pop it in low S. Phantom Hourglass. The first DS Zelda game to come out. And they leaned heavily into those, that touchscreen control. You do not touch the D-pad at all. Frankly, I don't even think you touch the A or B buttons. Everything is done on the touchscreen with the stylus. You use the stylus to move Link, you scribble with the stylus to slash, you tap on the item to select using it, and then if it's like a boomerang or the bomb shoe, you draw where it goes. You get on the boat and you draw your course on the boat and it follows that, and you tap on enemies to shoot the bombs at them. It's a really interesting story. Really, like, it can be really frustrating at times because of the touchscreen. I remember when I was playing through it on stream, I really, really, really wanted to beat it before I left for a break over Christmas. But I didn't, because the last boss, Bellum, was just being such a pain, and I wasn't able to draw the things on the screen correctly because I was using an emulator on my computer and my mouse because I didn't have a drawing tablet at the time. And so I couldn't beat it that night, so I ended the stream, went on my Christmas break, came back, and then immediately just, like, wiped the floor with Bellum when I came back and everything. And then started Spirit Tracks. But yeah, Phantom Hourglass is a very, very fun game. In, like, at times. It has some really, like, interesting mechanics. Like, there's one part where there is a island that, yeah, there's an island that you can't, it doesn't show up on your map, but you see, like, marks on the island itself that you can draw on your map, because that's the thing you can do. You can draw and make notes on your map. You would mark on your map all these different locations, and then the island, and then you could draw the island and everything to find the thing because of a puzzle, and with that, you are then able to find out that the island is shaped like a whale, with water coming out of its blowhole. There's another point where you are looking at a map, but the map is backwards, but it shows you where a thing is. So if you open your map while looking at it, and then close the DS and reopen it, the mark will be transferred from one map to the other. It's like you laid your map on top of the other, and it's just, there's some really cool things in it, but since it was an early DS game that was leaning heavily into the gimmicks of the DS, it fell short in quite a few places. So I'm going to say it's probably like a, I'm thinking a D tier game, but like higher than Zelda 2. Spirit Tracks, on the other hand, I'm going to say is a C tier game because it came out a few years after the fact, had better graphics, and they also refined the gimmick controls and everything. It just felt better to move and do things. But they did lean into new gimmicky stuff, like microphone stuff, playing your pan flute. That was a bitch. Especially doing it on stream, where the microphone that is for your DS is this microphone. So I couldn't very well blow into the microphone without fucking up the stream, so I would have to like mute the mic on the stream and then do the stuff, or just it was a pain. And then even then it would be hard to like get it to actually work, because on the DS itself the pan flute was a pain to play. But the train was just so much fun. I love the train. Trains are just cool. I really like it. I remember I got the game for Christmas, and by New Year's Eve night, it wasn't even New Year's yet, by New Year's Eve night, I had the game beaten. And I love the ending of the game, honestly. The story of the game itself, even, is really good. It's better than Phantom Hourglass. The fact that Zelda is the companion with you throughout the game as a ghost gives her the opportunity to like really become a character in on herself, and it's so cool. You actually feel a connection between Link and Zelda doing the stuff in the game, instead of just Zelda being this being that exists that you're having to do this for, and Link being this thing that is doing the stuff because reasons. It feels right. Like, Phantom Hourglass is a direct sequel to Wind Waker. Like, Link and Tetra are in the game. And not Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks is a sequel to Phantom Hourglass, but it takes place like 100 years later at most, I think. Like, Nico is still alive, but he's an old man. So, the Link and Zelda in this game, they like know each other and have for a while and everything. So there was already that pre-established connection, but unlike with Minish Cap, where the pre-established connection is just kind of said there, and then ooh, now Zelda is taken, and well, I guess I gotta kidnap her because they say she's my friend. There doesn't feel like too much agency to go save Zelda in that instance. With this one, Zelda is with you the entire time, and she builds as a character and everything, so there's that direct agency to do what you need to do and go beat Chancellor Cole and the big monster demon that I'm forgetting the name of, who looks really cool. Honestly, Spirit Tracks is just a really good game. I'm gonna say it's actually better than Four Swords. I'm gonna say it's better than Zelda 1. Still a C tier though. But it's a great game, genuinely. There's not as many annoying things. Like, the pan flute is the main irritating factor that I can think of, but aside from that, it's a fun game. The Temple of the Ocean King in Phantom Hourglass, you have to redo every floor every single time to go through it, and it gets monotonous. Sometimes you get, like, once you get to a certain point, you get given a teleport to that point, and then you can go, but for the most part, you're having to go through every single floor every single time. With Spirit Tracks, the Spirit Tower has different floors that you go to, so every time you put a new level back on the tower, you can climb up the tower to that new level, and then do a whole new area of the tower immediately, not having to do any of the other parts of the tower. Like, again, unless you want to go there with your new weapons to get other things. And the fact that Zelda is able to possess the phantoms that are strewn throughout the place that are introduced in Phantom Hourglass is so cool and so unique and so fun, and I love it. She can carry you, she can become the ball one, she can just oh, I love it. It's great. It's a fun time. Yeah, definitely a higher C tier. It fixed so many issues that Phantom Hourglass had. So the next game on the list then is Skyward Sword, which I got brand new. I remember waiting so long, so long with all the hype ever since that first image released of Link with Fi. That's all. Didn't say anything. And that was all we had for literal years. Like a year or two at least. And the wait was so long. So long. And then it finally came out. I got the special edition with the Wii remote. If you couldn't tell, it's the Wii remote that I use all the time. It came with the soundtrack as well. Like, that was so cool because the soundtrack was so fantastic. It was the 25th anniversary Zelda game. They put work into that soundtrack with the Tokyo Symphonic Orchestra doing their shit. No, the Tokyo Symphonic Orchestra... Did the Tokyo Symphonic Orchestra do Skyward Sword, or do they only do... not Odyssey, Galaxy? I don't fully remember. Regardless, the soundtrack is fantastic, and I love it so much. The issues that everybody said as huge glaring issues, yes, there were some issues, but not near as bad as what everyone had to say. Like, I, personally, would swing the sword too hard, too vigorously, too much, and that would desync the thing, and that would be the reasoning why I had to recalibrate my Wii remote. I didn't have any issues with the getting the direction of the slices to go and everything, and it was just so fantastic. I played through the game while being in Skype calls with my friends, and it was just such a fun time because I would like narrate the things that were going on. I think at one point I even turned my webcam towards the screen, and Girahim, I gave him a voice like this because it was just very fun to have Girahim talk like this. And I just had such a fun time with it. I beat the game entirely, and then I almost beat the game a second time. I made it all the way to when I was about to do the very final section of the game, but I wanted to get the Hylian shield, so I went and did the boss rush, but I couldn't beat Demise because he was in the boss rush of hero mode. And so that was what stopped me from beating the game a second time on hero mode. But frankly, I love the game, and when the HD remake came out, I was in line at EB Games to pick that up when it came out, and I got my Joy-Cons, which are the Joy-Cons that are on my Switch. I love them. It's just a good time. I'm a huge fan of the game. The HD remake really helped bridge gaps between things, because if I wanted to play Skyward Sword with this controller, how would I do that? So they changed it and made it so I can with the advent of a second control stick. I was just a fan of it all around. I'm going to say, like, there are definitely some, like, more annoying parts that I always forget about and don't think about. And God, I remember the pure terror that I had the first time I went and did the Silent Realms. But it was a really fun time. It was a really good time. I'm personally going to put the game at a solid B tier. Lower than A Link to the Past, because like I'll want to play A Link to the Past more often than I'll want to play Skyward Sword. Um, but Skyward Sword is definitely a fantastic game, and it gets far too much hate than it deserves. Probably just because a lot of people were on that hate train for it, because that was what was cool ever since before the game came out. Oh, it looks child. It's like Wind Waker. I loved it. Link Between Worlds. I adore this game so much. It was such a fantastic game. It took me a little bit to get it after it released, but it was so good, so fun. The fact that it takes place in the same world, one-to-one, as A Link to the Past was so cool. Going everywhere like, hey, it's this, hey, it's this, hey, I'm in Tower of Hera, hey, It was just so fun because like I knew where places were, I knew where to go. And the high rule, low rule thing, and Ravio, the concept of being able to buy your items at any point, but they were rented until you could afford it. It added a large open expanse to the game, but it didn't completely open up the game because there was still a truncated point that you had to get to for getting the sand rod, because that was already taken. You had to get to a specific dungeon to get that in the first place, which would then allow you to do other stuff. It's a fantastic game. The 3D components of the game was so cool. The turning it into a painting on the wall, so clever, so cool, so fun. And I love the fact that the Majora's Mask was on Link's wall. I would always turn on to a painting and then go behind it and it would look like I'm wearing the mask. So much fun. So fantastic. I'm going to say it's either a high A tier or a low S tier. I'm going to say it's a high A tier. Triforce Heroes. I never beat it because it's a challenging game to do by yourself, and never got around to fully doing it on stream with people because that requires getting people together and then doing it all and whatnot. But from the little bit that I played, it's a fun multiplayer game. I do not know the story at all, except for like the princess is like, she lost her fashion and you need to fix that. I don't know. But my copy of it, I'm pretty sure is still in the shrink wrap. I have only played it on emulator on stream because I never really had the opportunity to play with other people when it was out as a main thing, and barely had opportunities to play it on stream. So I'm going to say that it's a low... I'm going to say that it's like probably the only E tier, only because like you can do it single player, but you can't do it single player. You know, I'm going to actually classify this one as Four Swords because I did technically play it on the DS, and I'm going to put it also... I'm going to put it also as an E because they're a forced multiplayer. You have to have people. Like with the DS re-release for the 25th anniversary, I think it was, maybe even earlier. Maybe it was even the 20th anniversary. God. The DS store release of Four Swords, you could do by yourself, but it, much like Triforce Heroes, designed for multiple people, much better for multiple people. I loved the clothing aspect of Triforce Heroes was clever and fun and everything. The fact that it's 3 is much easier to wrangle than 4. But still a challenge to do because you need multiplayer for them. Now, into the new Zelda games, 2017 all the way up. So with Breath of the Wild, it was a completely phenomenal, game-changing, like, experience. The first time I turned on the game, exited the Shrine of Resurrection, and the game showed that expanse, me and all my friends in the room started yelling because of how, like, amazing it looked. And it was ridiculous and everything. But as the years have gone on and I played the game more and more and more, it's a fantastic game. It's an absolutely fantastic game. But the issue with it is that it's not really that amazing of a Zelda game. The story in it is a fantastic Zelda game story. But in my personal opinion, as someone who started with Majora's Mask and then expanded out from there to the different forms of the Zelda formula, going to Breath of the Wild, where it's a complete flip of the formula, having mini dungeons all over the place, and no dungeon items that you can find all over the place with different armor sets and everything. And the dungeons themselves were not even quite fully dungeons, but they were. It's a great game, and I love playing it, but it's not as amazing of a Zelda game. So I'm genuinely going to say that it's a solid B tier game. Probably like a high B tier. But it's not like amazing and everything, but it is an amazing game. Do not get me wrong. But in the comparison of it as a Zelda game to the other Zelda games, it's lacking. But the story is there. The story is a Zelda story and all that, but it was definitely a thing that they were trying, and they did a good job with it, and I loved playing it, and I played through the game, like I played it non-stop, and I loved it. Such a good game. But I wish it had more as a Zelda game. And as I was saying with Majora's Mask, if it's your first Zelda game, it's your favorite Zelda game, because that is what is setting the standard to you for what Zelda games are. And it's really interesting for people starting with Breath of the Wild and then going to the other games and seeing the stark differences there. But I really like Breath of the Wild. It's a solid high B for Breath of the Wild. Link's Awakening Switch re-release. Remake. They added things to the game, like multiple bottles and a dungeon making aspect of it with Dampe. The graphics and the world feel so fun, so cute. I love looking at it. The music is so well orchestrated and played and everything. I love playing through the game and everything. I wish that they did more with the dungeon builder in the game when they did it. And with that, if they did more with it, then that would have allowed it to get more traction. Then we could have gotten like a Zelda Maker, like with Mario Maker, just making dungeons that you could share online. And that would be so fun. Sharing like custom made 2D Zelda dungeons. That feels like the early days of like Blizzard.net with Warcraft maps that people would send out, or just things like that. It's a fun time. I love the Link's Awakening re-release, remake, and it's such a good time. It's definitely better than the original, because of the better music, better graphics, better additions to stuff. They added some things to the game to make it so glitches don't happen. Like certain glitches can't be done, which is always unfortunate when that happens because we want our glitches. The Zeds are the same size there. It's a fantastic game. Better than the original. Is it quite an S tier because the stuff that they added didn't really add too much. So I'm going to say it's a high A tier game. The stuff that they added didn't like build on the game too outrageously much, and they didn't do other things with it as time went on, which is a disappointment because it's a lost potential there. Tears of the Kingdom. So hyped. So much hype. I think more hype than for Breath of the Wild. Like, I remember when Breath of the Wild came out, I was watching the trailer, blah, 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 and then the people started talking, and then I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Wait, they're talking? And that was a very fun time. Daruk, since he was a ghost and everything, I thought he was a Goron that was white. And I'm like, oh, is there going to be snow Gorons? That'd be pretty cool. Which I do still wish that there was, like, snow mountain Gorons. I think that would be pretty cool. But the hype for Tears of the Kingdom was because with that first trailer of just the stuff and then the sequel to Breath of the Wild is now in development was just so good. So much hype was built waiting for that. The addition of the sky and the depths. The sky was honestly a little bit of a disappointment just because of how sparse the islands were, and there was like barely anything on much of the islands, and you barely had to go there for proper things. When the depths, on the other hand, I spent so much time in it. Like, I had the depths fully mapped out before I even went everywhere on the surface. It was so fun. I loved the depths, just driving around, flying around, lighting things up. The depths themselves was a fantastic experience, and I wish that the sky had the same opportunity as that. But it was still so fun. They added on to the story in such great ways and built upon and expanded the things, making other things make more sense. The whole revelation of who the Zonai actually were and all that fun stuff. I personally want, like, I said that they're not like super amazing Zelda games, but they're amazing games. But regardless, I want, because they're still great Zelda stories, I want a third one of the two. Since Breath of the Wild is blue themed and Tears of the Kingdom is green themed, I want a red themed one because courage, wisdom, power, green, blue, red, that's always been what they are. Hell, even green, blue, red right here. I want a third one because if you get all the shrines, you get the ancient heroes aspect, and you can see who the ancient hero was, the one that defeated the calamity 10,000 years ago. But that's all. They don't say anything. You just get the aspect, and you can see what it looks like. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody mentions the hero of 10,000 years ago. That's all you get. So I want a third game to come out that is a prequel, a game that takes place 10,000 years ago, and you are that incarnation of the hero, because I want to know what the fuck is up with that hero. Like half Zonai, half Hylian, like what? I don't know. But I want it. I love the house building aspect. That was fun. The construction aspect of Tears of the Kingdom was also fun, but frustrating as well. But frankly, it's always hard to do shit like that. Like with Fallout 4, the house building aspect was finicky, but you could still do some shit, and people like did some shit with this. It's definitely better than Breath of the Wild. I personally think that Tears of the Kingdom, for mostly because of the story and the depths, pops it up to low A tier there. But it's great. I enjoy it. I love the game, the story. I love the new Ganondorf being there. My first time, like when on stream when I was playing it, fighting Ganondorf, and then he like became all buffed up and everything, and then watching his health bar just I was like, what the fuck? It was just so fun. I loved it. Better than Breath of the Wild. Low A tier. And then here we are finally with the last Zelda game, the most recent one to have come out, Echoes of Wisdom. F tier. So thank you all. No. No, I adored this game so much. The music in it, like all of the little motifs of the older Zelda music, like with Zelda's Lullaby playing on the overworld, or other parts of other Zelda music playing during boss fights. It was like, I think Blizette's theme played during the Ice Temple boss. Skorzard, I think his name is. Skorzard. So good. I loved the Echo mechanics, being able to like solve puzzles in your own way, doing all of the bullshit like, I'm gonna make a tower of beds, I'm gonna make a column of water, I'm going to get over here and fly over there on a tile. Like there's different ways of solving all the puzzles in a way better than Tears of the Kingdom, because they were, since it was a 2D Zelda game, they were able to do all that stuff in a better format. And ooh, I loved playing as Zelda. It's taken all of these games, and finally we get to play as Zelda. Grezzo, same team obviously that did Link's Awakening remake, did a phenomenal job with it. I was not expecting the story to end up going where it went, with Ganon being just an echo, that this new creature that we haven't met before like made, this being that is older than the creation of all of Hyrule itself. And we get to actually talk to the goddesses. We don't see them, but we get to talk to the goddesses. It's just a jolly fun time. I loved the game so much. So much. Like, God, every stream I look forward to playing more of it. And I wanted to play more of it when I wasn't on stream, but I'm like, I have to not. I'm playing it on stream. I want everything to be like new and fresh. And it was so fantastic. So great. I loved it so much. And with that, it's like, it's S tier. Don't know where in S tier. I don't know the ordering of the S tiers. But everything else is, say, in order. But I'm going to be content with that being my Zelda tier list. Somewhere, I think I have the picture of my old tier list still saved. Otherwise, I gotta open the video and find it. Yeah, can't quite locate that, so I'll just, let's hop over to my me real quick. How the fuck do I get to my channel? I like never go there. 2 years ago. That's my hair. Look at me. It was before I even had a dresser. Wild. But that, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, makes sense. Same levels of everything, but with this one in SS tier, which maybe I would have done different if I had like SS instead of just S, but Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, and A Link to the Past as the S's, but that is different now. It is the same, but A Link to the Past is... it's down to a B now. The A's were Zelda 1, Breath of the Wild, and then the Game Boy games. Well, Spirit Tracks. Do those line up? The Game Boy games. And... yeah, they line up fairly well. Breath of the Wild, I put that in a B instead of an A, but that's still the third rank down from here, so it kind of matches. And then Minish Cap, Zelda 2, and A Link's Awakening, I put all the way down as a B tier, when now it's up as an A tier. The D tier is... oh look, lowest tier on that is the same. And then Four Swords, Hyrule Warriors wasn't even on this one. And Four Swords... where's Zelda 2? Zelda 2 is in B. Well, so more or less very, very similar. But a big thing is that A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, went up. And a lot of other stuff kind of just stayed the same. Which is fun. Which is very fun. So this is my final tier list for The Legend of Zelda, of all of the games. And if anyone says otherwise, you're wrong. Yeah, I wanna... cool. But yeah, so that's going to be that for the tier list. I am going to run off on a quick little break and everything. And then when I come back, we're going to hop into something. Don't entirely know what, but I think I might know what. But yeah, so I'm gonna hop on to that break and I will be back in a little bit.